One of the main questions my real estate team and I get from people that are looking to move to the Raleigh, North Carolina area and buy a house is, how bad are the HOAs in Raleigh? A lot of people have either heard about or experienced firsthand some really true horror stories related around having to live in a neighborhood with an HOA. And so naturally, the topic of HOAs comes up quite a bit. In today's video, we're going to go over all of the positives and the negatives of living in a neighborhood that has a homeowners association here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, so you're armed with the knowledge of where might be the best place for you to live. So first off, let's start at the top. What is an HOA? Well, HOA is short for Homeowners Association. It's an organization that maintains the rules and regulations of a specific neighborhood. And in order to maintain all of these rules and regulations and enforce those rules and regulations, the HOA usually charges a monthly or a yearly fee for the privilege of managing you there in the neighborhood. You should also know that although this sounds kind of scary, what I'm talking about, all HOAs are not created equal. They're not all bad. Some HOAs have minimal standards, fairly loose and really easy going. Others are extremely strict, where they literally monitor the height of your grass and send you nasty grams if your grass gets even a little bit too high. So again, I know this all sounds really scary, but there are indeed some big positives to living in a neighborhood with an HOA. And one of the biggest positives of living in a neighborhood with an HOA is that they usually have really amazing amenities, such as pools, community clubhouses. Some neighborhoods even have social directors that organize things. There's events that go on throughout the year, like Halloween things and like egg rolls at Easter time and Christmas things at Christmas time. Some neighborhood HOAs even maintain your landscaping. So definitely in a townhouse situation, you're gonna have the HOA maintain the exterior of the home, including your landscaping, so no lawnmowers needed if you own a townhome. There's also specific single-family home neighborhoods that maintain your yard as well. Destin in Apex, North Carolina comes to mind. It's a high-end neighborhood that charges a relatively high HOA dues for a single family neighborhood, even luxury neighborhood. But the reason they do is they maintain all of the grounds of your property. So it's super amazing in that regard. And back to townhome situations, most townhome communities that have an HOA, the neighborhood HOA maintains, as I said, the exterior of your home. That means if you have anything that goes wrong with your roof or your siding, the HOA is going to maintain that. We have a client right now that's selling her townhome in Durham, North Carolina, and we are almost at the point of going to closing, but one of the things that popped up on the inspection report from the buyer was that there was some flaws in her roof. I think it was a vent that was needing to be replaced and a couple of shingles that needed to be replaced. She did not have to hire a roofing company to handle that. She simply called the HOA. The HOA sent someone out and replaced and repaired and did everything that needed to be done literally the next day. So these HOAs can be very responsive. Again, really great reason to live in a townhome community. As well, some HOAs have neighborhood security. There's a high-end neighborhood in Raleigh where the neighborhood has its own security force that monitors the neighborhood, and that is part of the HOA, which is really great. Another great positive of an HOA is they maintain community standards. You do not want to live in a neighborhood that has cars on blocks or maybe has work trucks that are parked out front, making it difficult to navigate through the streets. The reason you don't want to live in that kind of a neighborhood is because it makes it very difficult when you go to sell your home to put the best face forward on that home. People are having to weave cars and trucks and all that sort of a thing. And then of course, cars up on blocks that are getting repaired is never a good thing. It gives a bad image of the neighborhood as being sloppy or whatever's going on. So that's another huge positive. HOAs will maintain that and cite that homeowner and say you need to remove that car. It's not allowed to be worked on in the front yard on blocks. Lastly, another positive of HOAs is they help resolve disputes between neighbors. If you've got a problem with something your neighbor is doing that maybe is bringing down home values in the neighborhood at large, you can report them to the HOA. The HOA will handle it and you don't have to get involved in that. So again, many positives of living in an HOA community. And so with all those positives, there's also some negatives to living in a neighborhood that doesn't have an HOA. It's truly that you can have neighbors that have cars up on blocks, that let their grass grow out of control, that leave their trash cans out all the time, or maybe trash cans have blown over and there's trash everywhere. In general, these things that I'm describing can devalue your property, and that's not something you want to do if you're spending your hard-earned money to buy a home in this neighborhood, and then to come find out there's no one who can intercede and cite these people when they do bad things. This is a real big negative of some neighborhoods that do not have an HOA. You've got to know that everyone in the community is willing to work together to maintain the community. If anyone doesn't do that, if someone decides to put car up on blocks and let their grass grow and all of that stuff, it's truly going to devalue the value of your home. And as a side note of all this, you should probably know that if you are planning to buy a new construction home in the Raleigh, Durham, Triangle area, it's going to be very difficult to find a new construction home that doesn't have an HOA. Just about everyone that we know of is going to have an HOA of some size or another. So if you're planning on buying new construction, be prepared that you're going to have to deal with the HOA. So I know I've made it sound like an HOA is an amazing thing, but we all know that's not the case. There truly are some negatives to living in neighborhoods with HOAs. The first one that comes to my mind is probably the first that comes to your mind. It's the stereotypical person that's on the power trip that we saw the commercial a few years back where the lady was going through the neighborhood with a clipboard and yelling at neighbors because their hedges were too high. And I think she had a ruler and was measuring it. It was exaggerated, but you get the point. That person does exist. They're out there and they'd love to join an HOA board so they can have control over you. So again, big negative of an HOA is the people with power trips. As well, there's some other negatives of HOAs. Slow approval process. You want to modify your home in some way. You want to repaint a different color, or maybe add a pool or add an ADU, one of those senior citizen small homes on the back of your property. The city may allow you to do that, but your HOA may throw a fit, may stall things, may delay things, and generally make it a pain in your backside to try to make any modification to your home. As well, landscaping. You may not want a hedge out front or the community fence out front of your property, but you're stuck with that if you live in an HOA that demands that your hedges look a certain way, or there's a fence out front or whatever. And another negative of HOAs, the annual dues seem to keep going up and up and up every year or every other year. We've seen a relatively dramatic increase in HOA fees over the entire country over the last few years. And so that is an additional aggravation that you've got to deal with. If you live in a neighborhood with an HOA, it's certainly a negative. And another negative that most people don't think about is HOAs charge an HOA transfer fee when you sell your home to someone else. They charge you a fee to transfer that home from your name into the new person's name. And it is a very advanced process that they go through. It requires many years of education and learning to do this whole process of doing a transfer. They have to take a finger and they have to put it on the delete key and push the delete key until your name is no longer in that line. Then they have to take all 10 of their fingers and type in the name of the new person. And then they got to go again with that finger and hit the enter key. And then they got to go to the step of going to the printer and getting all of the documents that just printed out. And they've got to take those documents, they've got to fold those documents, put them in an envelope and mail them to the new person. It's a arduous task. It takes a whopping 5 minutes. And for that, they charge you $100, $200. It's really ridiculous. It's a big aggravation that I see all the time. It's something that the sellers are paying, just so you know. And so certainly that is a big negative of living in an HOA when you go to sell your house. On a personal level, our former neighborhood HOA, thankfully we've left it, was super annoying. And so there's a story that hopefully you'll be able to relate to, or hopefully you won't be able to relate to. So the HOA hired this gentleman to drive around the neighborhood all the time. There were people who parked their cars in the streets and did general not nice things. For some reason, he would come every time the day before we cut our grass and would send us a nasty letter. Your grass is too long. Da, 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 blah, 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 all the time. We felt like we were getting picked on. So it was truly a relief when we moved out of our neighborhood. And so that is another aggravation, is that micromanaging and the nasty letters, and you feel like you're a victim of the HOA when they send you these nasty letters all the time. Hopefully you've never experienced that and never will. But if you have experienced that, please comment below. We'd love to see how many people have dealt with what we've dealt with. So there's the positives and negatives of an HOA. What kind of fees can you expect to incur from living in a neighborhood with an HOA here in the Raleigh area? Well, for townhomes, you're generally looking at somewhere between $200 and $300 per month. But again, they're maintaining the exterior of your property, which means your insurance bill is dramatically less than it would be if you were in a single family home. Because with a townhome situation, you're only needing to insure the interior of your property, literally from halfway into the drywall inside, and the HOA handles halfway of the drywall to the outside. So it sort of evens things out a bit as far as townhomes go. With single family homes, you're looking at somewhere between $75 and $150 a month to live in a neighborhood with an HOA if you have a single family detached home. Now, these are general prices. You will certainly find some outliers that charge $20 a month and $800 a month. But know that this is roughly what you can expect to pay if you live in a neighborhood in the Raleigh, North Carolina area that has an HOA. So again, as we said at the top of this video, we get a lot of people coming to us that are wanting to move to our area and buy a home, and they're very concerned about HOAs. A lot of places in this country, HOAs are out of control. They are super micromanagey and very annoying. But know that in general here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, the micromanagey, annoying HOAs are really few and far between. Most of the time, most HOAs do not bother you. I can say that the neighborhood we've moved to since living in that annoying neighborhood has been great. We've not had any trouble with the HOA. They've not given us any trouble. And it's really helped the quality of life here in the neighborhood to have them around. So know that if you are planning a move to the Raleigh area, don't be afraid of an HOA. In general, HOAs are not that bad, not something you need to be afraid of. Definitely don't let that be the determining factor as to which neighborhood you move into, because unfortunately, here in our area, the majority of neighborhoods have an HOA, so you will be cutting out quite a bit of the available homes to see if you say to your agent, no HOAs, please. So to make your next move to the Raleigh, North Carolina area, all you have to do is contact us at the information below. We'll be happy to help you get things started. Check out this video. We think you're really gonna like this one as well. And of course, like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.